The second Harrisville haunting, the Conjuring house, returns after the parents left. The farmhouse at Round Top Road waited for its next victims, and the Warrens returned to document the terror. Long after the Perron family closes the door on 1677 Round Top Road for the final time in 1980, the farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, stands silent in the New England countryside, waiting. The departure of one family does not end what Ed and Lorraine Warren have spent years documenting within those colonial walls. The phenomena they catalogued during the Perron investigation, the footsteps in empty rooms, the apparitions on the staircase, the oppressive presence in the basement, were never tied to the people who occupied the house. They were tied to the land itself, to the history soaked into the foundation, to the entity the Warrens identified as connected to Bathsheba Sherman, whose 19th century legacy left a spiritual mark that would not fade with the changing of property deeds. The Warrens understand this distinction with clarity born from decades of investigation. When a family leaves a haunted house, the haunting does not follow them home. It stays, it waits, it prepares for whoever comes next. The assessment proves accurate. Through the 1980s and beyond, successive families move into the Round Top Road farmhouse. Some stay for years, others leave within months. Each occupant brings their own expectations, their own skepticism or openness to the unexplained. What they share, across different decades and different circumstances, is the experience of phenomena that match, with unsettling consistency, the same patterns the Warrens documented during the Perron years. The footsteps come first for most families, the sound of movement through the house when no one else is home, the distinctive tread of footfalls on the wooden floors of the upper level, the creak of stairs being climbed or descended by something that leaves no visible trace. These sounds occur most frequently at night, in those hours between midnight and dawn when the boundary between sleep and waking grows thin. Occupants who investigate these sounds find nothing: empty hallways, closed doors, silence that feels like held breath. The voices follow the footsteps, whispers without source, conversations held in rooms that contain no speakers, words spoken too softly to be understood but clearly enough to be recognized as language. Some occupants report hearing their names called when they are alone in the house. Others describe the sensation of someone speaking directly behind them, close enough that they should feel breath on their neck, only to turn and find empty air. The Warrens, when they return to the property to interview these new witnesses, recognize every detail. The phenomena have not changed. The intelligence behind them has not departed. It has simply continued its work with new subjects. The basement remains, as it was during the Perron investigation, the most consistently disturbing area of the property. Successive occupants who venture into that below-ground space report the same oppressive atmosphere that Carolyn Perron described years earlier: the sensation of being watched by something hostile, the physical discomfort of prolonged exposure, the instinctive animal knowledge that they are in territory claimed by something that does not want them there. Some families stop using the basement altogether, sealing the door and avoiding that level of the house entirely. Others persist, driven by practical necessity or stubborn disbelief, but none who spend significant time in that space describe it as comfortable. The temperature in the basement registers consistently lower than the rest of the house, even in summer. The air feels different there, heavier, older, as though it has not moved or refreshed itself in centuries. Apparitions appear to multiple post-Perron occupants, most frequently in the upper floors and along the main staircase. The locations match the Warren documentation from the 1970s with precision. A figure is reported by separate witnesses across different years, always in the same area, the upper bedroom corridor, standing near the doorway or visible briefly before withdrawing into shadow. The descriptions these witnesses provide align with disturbing consistency to Carolyn Perron's accounts of the primary apparition she encountered during her family's occupation. A woman, dark clothing, a presence that radiates hostility. The figure does not interact with witnesses, it observes, it claims territory, It makes clear that the living are guests in a house that belongs to something older. What makes the post-Perrin documentation particularly compelling to the Warrens is the independence of these witness accounts. Most of the families who occupy the Round Top Road farmhouse in the years following the Perrins have limited or no knowledge of the previous occupants' experiences. Some are told vaguely that the house has a history. Others purchase or rent the property with no disclosure of its paranormal reputation. Yet the phenomena they report match, in detail and pattern, the experiences documented during the original investigation. This consistency across unconnected witnesses strengthens the case in ways that single-family hauntings cannot match. The phenomena are not the product of suggestion or shared expectation. They are the product of whatever remains anchored to that location, expressing itself in patterns that persist regardless of who witnesses them. Ed and Lorraine Warren make return visits to the Round Top Road property through the 1980s, maintaining their relationship with the case and with the successive owners who choose to remain despite the phenomena. For some of these families, the Warrens represent the only validation of experiences that friends and relatives dismiss as imagination or stress. For others, the Warrens offer guidance on how to coexist with a presence that will not be easily removed. Ed updates his case files with each visit, adding new witness testimony to the existing documentation, building what becomes one of the most comprehensive longitudinal paranormal investigations in the New England Society for Psychic Research archive. This is not a case that concluded in 1980. This is a case that continues, that evolves, that demonstrates the persistent nature of genuine infestation across decades of continuous activity. Lorraine finds these return visits particularly intense. The impressions she received during the original Perrin investigation remain vivid in her memory, and returning to the property confirms what she already knows. The primary entity associated with the farmhouse has not departed. The deep, patient malevolence she perceived in the 1970s is still present, still anchored to the location, still capable of influencing anyone who lives within its claimed territory. When Lorraine walks through the house, she feels the same spiritual cold she felt years before, the same awareness of being in proximity to something fundamentally adversarial to human presence. The entity has not weakened. It has not lost interest. It has simply waited, as it has waited for generations, for the living to come within reach. The persistent infestation of the Round Top Road farmhouse after the Perrin family's departure confirms, in Ed Warren's assessment, one of the foundational principles of his demonological understanding. Genuine demonic infestation is anchored to location and history rather than to any specific human family. Without proper and complete spiritual intervention, an infested property will simply continue to afflict whoever occupies it. The danger for post-Perrin occupants is therefore identical to the danger that threatened the Perrin family: progressive spiritual, psychological, and relational erosion produced by sustained exposure to an adversarial intelligence of significant power and patience. Living in a house with an inhuman presence is not a neutral experience. It takes a toll on sleep, on mental health, on family relationships, on the basic sense of safety that humans require to function. The families who endure this toll do so at cost, and the Warrens document those costs with the same care they document the phenomena themselves. The entity Warren associates with the Harrisville farmhouse has, in his professional assessment, centuries of connection to the location. It has developed a degree of entrenchment that makes it exceptionally resistant to anything short of the most thorough and formally authorized spiritual intervention that ecclesiastical tradition can provide. Partial measures, individual blessings, private prayers, informal cleansings produce temporary reductions in activity at best. The entity withdraws briefly, then returns. It has patience that human occupants lack. It can afford to wait through any temporary inconvenience because it is not bound by human lifespans or property ownership. It was there before the current occupants arrived. It will be there after they leave. Warning subsequent owners of this reality becomes, for Warren, an obligation he honors through continued engagement with the property regardless of who holds the deed. Multiple blessings and partial cleansing ceremonies are conducted over the years in coordination with clergy willing to perform such services. Each produces some measurable reduction in reported activity. Occupants describe weeks or sometimes months of relative quiet following these interventions, but the depth of the infestation resists the finality that the Warrens seek. The phenomena return. The presence reasserts itself. Ed Warren, characteristically honest in his documentation, acknowledges in the case files that some locations present spiritual challenges of a scale that exceeds the resources available in a given period. The farmhouse on Round Top Road represents a concentration of adversarial presence that requires the most formal and sustained ecclesiastical intervention the church can authorize. Achieving that level of authorization and commitment around a privately held property presents practical obstacles alongside the spiritual ones. The property remains in private hands. The families who occupy it are not always willing or able to pursue the extended formal process that a complete exorcism would require. The result is a documented infestation that persists, acknowledged but unresolved, across decades. The property's history continues beyond the Warren era. In 2019, the Harrisville farmhouse is purchased by the Heinzen family, who make the deliberate choice to embrace its paranormal reputation. They open the property to investigators, welcoming researchers and experiencers who wish to document phenomena at what has become, largely due to the 2013 film based on the Perrin case, one of the most famous haunted locations in America. The Heinzens report phenomena consistent with the Warren-era records. The footsteps continue, the apparitions appear, the basement retains its oppressive atmosphere. The entity that Ed and Lorraine Warren spent years documenting remains anchored to the location, as patient and persistent as ever. For students of the Warren legacy, the continued activity of the Harrisville farmhouse serves as a reminder that the work of paranormal investigation is not always concluded. Some locations carry histories too deep and presences too entrenched to be fully resolved in a single investigation or a single lifetime. The honest acknowledgement of this reality is itself an act of integrity. Ed and Lorraine Warren did not claim to have solved every case they investigated. They documented what they found. They intervened where they could. They warned those who needed warning. And they maintained their commitment to the truth of their findings, even when that truth included limits to what could be achieved. The Round Top Road farmhouse stands as testament to that honest approach. A location where the phenomena documented in the 1970s continue into the present, witnessed by successive generations of occupants. Investigated by researchers who build on the foundation the Warrens established, and enduring as one of the most thoroughly documented cases of persistent paranormal activity in American history. If you found this case compelling, subscribe to Vanishing Roads for more documented paranormal investigations from around the world. This story was created with AI assistance based on documented case files. All events reference real investigations and reported incidents.